So feet shoulder width apart, nice and parallel, and just taking one shoulder in a great big circle. So if I just turn to the side, think about my short sleeve of my t-shirt, just that area moving back. Great, and then place the hand on the shoulder on that same side. And notice now that we're moving more of the arm, how there's a little bit of a rotation in the shoulders, not much in the hips. You can exaggerate it a bit if you want to, if that feels nice. But we're trying to make the biggest circle we can with this elbow. And then I'm just going to step forwards away from my wall, and now the whole arm is going backwards. And now, in order for this to be comfortable, I am going to turn my shoulders fully, turn my hips and rotate a little bit in my ankles as well. And notice what's happening with your other arm. So mine is just really relaxed, so it tends to swing backwards and forwards at the same time. Good, and then bring that arm forwards, up and over. So you're rotating in the other direction, but in order for it to be comfortable, we need to be moving the same amount. Great, arm is probably getting a little bit tired, maybe not the arm, but the shoulder area, that's absolutely fine. Take the hand onto the shoulder, circle the elbow. Notice that you don't need to move quite as much with the hips. And then finishing off, just let that arm drop and circling the whole of the shoulder. And now I really don't need to move my collarbone, the rest of my shoulders, definitely to move my hips. But I want to take the biggest circle I can. And that's got all nice and warm around the neck, but only really on one side, so let's do the other side. So taking the shoulder forwards, up, back, round, trying not to get the elbow or the arm involved too much. And then placing the hand on the shoulder for circles of the elbow, and noticing now that to make it comfortable, the collarbone will join in a little bit. The other arm is just gently rolling backwards and forwards, hips are opening up a tiny bit, and then now with the whole arm, so not the arm, don't have the arm completely locked out at the elbow, keep it quite relaxed, but open it up. Shoulders going back, hips going back, and notice what's going on at your ankles. Great, same arm coming forwards, up and over. I don't know about you, but it's going to be quite warm as well. Got the heater on there, that might be part of the reason. And then hands on your shoulder, so circling that elbow. So notice, in order to take the biggest circle with the elbow, you've got to still open up the collarbone, but not so much hips, hardly any ankles. And then finishing off, coming forwards, up and over with that whole short sleeve of your t-shirt, if you have one. Or think about this round part of the seam here. That's the bit that we're really focusing on. Good. Okay, let's use that nice warmth that hopefully you've got now at the back of the neck and the shoulders, and let's cross the hands over the shoulders and just rest the hands on the chest. Close your eyes if you want to, you don't have to, and turning the head from side to side. So what I like about this is the hands keep your shoulders still. It heightens your awareness of whether your shoulders are joining in and you're moving your shoulders as well. It's quite nice and warm, it gives you a bit of a hug, and especially when that neck is a bit tight, it helps to relax and keep the shoulders from joining in. So when you go from side to side, as in these tilts that I'm doing, think of lifting the ear up towards the ear up towards the ceiling rather than crunching and shortening on that other side. Good, then maybe just have a little circle all around. And the other way. Hopefully that should feel quite nice because of this security. It's almost like a comfort blanket with your hands in the position. Maybe drop the head, turn your chin from side to side, draw a semicircle with your chin, and then release. Great. Okay, so we're going to do a similar thing that we've warmed up with the shoulders with our feet. So making foot fists. So I've got my special yellow socks on today so that you can see what's going on. I'm going to keep my heel on the floor and I'm going to really scrunch and make a fist with your hands at the same time. Scrunch the toes up, really lifting the arch, but without getting the ankle joining in, and then spread the toes apart and flex the foot and lift the toes up, and do the same thing with your hands. So we're scrunching, making a foot fist, and then opening out. This might be quite cramp inducing, and if it isn't now, it might very well be in a minute when we do a little bit more movement with it. Good, so in the same way that we're not moving at the ankle, we're not moving at the wrists either. Just the foot and the hands joining in with the scrunch and the release. Good. Now just keep the hands just lifted a little bit. Lift the leg up. Keep the scrunch and try, so we've got a little bit of a one leg balance going on as well. Try and keep the scrunch, keep the foot fist and circle at the ankle. Keep your hands in a fist and circle at the wrist. And I'm grimacing a little bit because I'm starting to get a bit crampy here, but that's fine. Hang on to something if you need to. Forget about the hands. This is primarily about the feet. But if you can do that double whammy of standing on that one leg as well, that's perfect. So both directions if you haven't already. Ooh, and especially when it gets really crampy. Now we're pushing the ball of the foot into the floor and rolling around. And I'm really applying quite a lot of pressure across the ball of my foot. Everything's clunking and clicking, and I want the ankle joint to just go all around. So that feels quite nice. That stretches out the cramping sensation from underneath my foot. And then I'm going to go over my toes, which might not be as comfortable for you, but again, a valid thing to do. So ankle is rolling around, getting that nice stretch across the top of your foot, getting all those toes awake. Brilliant, all on the other side. So scrunching, ooh, cramp already. Scrunching and stretching apart. So when I'm lifting my toes up, I'm trying to spread them apart in the same way I am with my fingers. So scrunching there and stretching them apart. They don't really go very far. And then we've got the heel on the floor, just to keep the heel and the ankle still so that it doesn't join in. And then we're lifting the foot up in the air, so we've got the one leg balance going on, and we're keeping that, ooh, la la la, we're trying to keep the scrunch with the toe. I did this earlier, I don't know why I'm cramping more tonight, but trying to keep the scrunch, keep the foot fist, so when you lift your feet up, as we just did, you're going to want to lift those toes up, change the position of the toes, try not to, and then circle around at the wrists as well. Changing direction. Balancing on that other leg, a nice straight standing leg, if you can. Oh yeah, okay, and then if you did get a bit of cramp like I did then, this should feel really nice. Really dig into the floor, as if the floor is like a memory foam mattress, and you're trying to make quite a deep circle, rolling the ball of the foot around. Brilliant, and then onto the toes. Ooh. And this side is a bit more uncomfortable for me. But get that ankle all mobilised. Great job. Okay, we're looking at the upper body, the thoracic spine. We're going to take a pushing action with the heels of the palms, and we're pushing the upper back back. We're drawing the belly button in, bending the knees, tucking the pelvis under. Really over-exaggerated, the worst posture possible if you were to be walking around like this all the time. So we're pushing the air out of the lungs as we breathe out. Then we're turning the palms up, and now we're going into Russian ballet style mode, the guys I'm thinking of, and we're opening the chest and lifting the chest up, straightening the legs, but it's all here. So pushing back with the ribs, turning the palms, opening up the arms, lifting up the ribs and trying to take those arms back quite far. So push, breath out and breath in and breath out and breath in and breath out, breath in. Really turn those palms up and here, pull your hands back. Heels of the palms. And breath out and breath in and we're there. Fantastic. Good. Pushing and pulling and opening out. Great. So thinking more still about the upper body and that sense of pushing back, but this time rather than pushing straight back, which we just did, we're going to push back on the corner. So if I'm looking at that corner, I'm pushing back to the opposite corner and the same when we're facing the front. So arms are out to the side. One arm goes up, you reach over to the side. For a side bend, this side arm stays up nice and high. And then I'm going to reach my arms forwards, my top arm forwards, pushing my upper back to the corner behind me. Join it with the other hand to sweep around and then come up and change sides. So over to the side, this top arm stays high. Reach, it's like I'm reaching forward with this hand, my front hand, but I'm pulling back at the same time. There's a slight bend in my knees. So bring the other arm round, circle round to the corner, coming up and under. 2 more. Over, so 4 all together. Reach around, circle around, and imagine you're surrounded by a great big bubble. And you're trying to touch the edge of this bubble all the way through as you sweep your arms round, all the way to the sides, all the way to the top. In fact, let's do 1 more each way. Over to the side, pushing back, shifting around. And then you're even trying to touch the back of the bubble with your ribs at the back as you push into your back ribs. Oh, and then we're coming upright. Great. We will return to that a little bit later. Fantastic. Let's go into some sumo squats. So I'm just going onto a diagonal. Feet are wide, slightly wider than shoulder width apart. Toes can be slightly turned out, but not too much. Bending the knees. The main focus here is sticking your bottom back behind you, keeping your spine nice and upright, and then coming up. This shouldn't be difficult. It should be really comfortable. Noticing that there's no change in the torso. You're bracing your hands on your legs. You're bringing your fingertips in, your elbows are out to the side. And then we're going to take 2 different movements to get out of this. Two different directions. But I would like to see, if I could see you, that you're holding this position momentarily before you go into the next bit. So you're in your sumo squat. From here, if I go completely to the side, hips are quite high compared to my knees and I'm braced. I'm going to move from my lower back to unravel my spine down to the floor. Head is the last thing, it relaxes all the way, trying to get my chest over my thighs and then tucking that pelvis under to roll and unravel all the way up to stand and then go again. Sumo squat, pause a moment. Think about the legs, they shouldn't need to move. Over you go with your spine, unraveling all the way to the top. I'm going to come back on the diagonal. 2 more. Sumo squat and relax and rolling back up and again. Sumo squat. Watch that you don't go too low in the beginning. So in sumo squat, your shoulders are actually quite high. Then you unravel and then you unravel to stand. We're going to come back into the sumo squat. From here, you're going to take a ripple. So you're dropping your chin onto your chest. Again, legs are staying still. I'm rounding my back. I'm coming almost to that same position. Now I'm leading with my head, sticking my chest out to come up to stand. So sumo squat first. Chin down, round the back, lead through, ripple through. So we're trying to get the spine nice and mobilised. 2 more. Sticking the bottom out, chin onto the chest, ripple all the way through and to stand. Last one, bottom out, chin onto the chest, round the back, all the way through to unravel to stand. Fantastic. I'm just going to turn my heater off for a moment. Getting very warm, although I'm sure Bodhi's quite enjoying it. Okay, let's take the feet slightly wider than shoulder width apart, and we're going to just reach gently down the side seam of your leggings, of your trousers if you've got a side seam there. If you haven't, just imagine you're going down the side of the exact side of your leg where our plumb line would be. Every time you come up through the middle, imagine we've done our reaches up, which we didn't do today, but you're lifting the rib cage off of the hips. You're lengthening the spine each time. Nice and relaxed with the head, just let it go, but be gentle. And then start to gradually lift the elbow up. But basically I'm tracing the side seam of my top, which you probably all have got, with the other arm. Thinking about that elbow just going up. Because you've bent over in the first place, that shoulder should be quite free. So my thumb goes quite reasonably towards my armpit, but don't jam the hand into the armpit. Just let it hang and try and reach that elbow up. Let it hang. So the hand just sort of comes forwards in front of the shoulder a little bit, over to the side, lifting up. Plays havoc on your bra straps, ladies, but try and leave them alone until we finish the exercise. Good, let's go all the way over this time. So reaching down with that side arm, lifting that elbow up as high as you can. Elbow up really high and then straighten the arm, which will increase the stretch. Now my arm is straight up to the ceiling. Now I'm just going to reach it across, which again increases the stretch. Now I'm going to bend my knees and relax and roll down in the middle. Stay there a moment, nod your head, shake your head, and then roll up through the spine as we did just now. We're going to add on to this, so try and remember which side you've just done. So over to the other side, lifting the elbow up first. Just be really relaxed in the upper body. Take the straight arm up to the ceiling. Try and reach that one up as you reach the lower one down. And then take it across. Notice the extra stretch. And then bend the knees, relax all the way down, hang from your waist. This time, straighten your legs here and soften the knees. 3 times. Just stretching those hamstrings, having a little bit of a wake up on the hamstrings, and then soft knees to roll up. We're going to add on a little bit more. Over to the first side, lift the elbow, take the arm up, stretch it across, push the hips away a tiny bit, unravel all the way down to the floor. This time straighten both legs and then bend one knee and straighten the other leg. Bend one knee, straighten the other leg. So if you can see me, if you've not done this before, I call this seesaw hips. We're hugely exaggerating it, but my hips, when I've got 2 straight legs, my hips are level. When I bend one knee, that side hip will drop back to level, 2 straight legs, and then the other side will drop. So this is like a seesaw. One side ends up higher than the other. So think about, so let's leave that there, let's roll back up through the centre, over to the other side. Reaching down, lifting the elbow up nice and high, straight arm up to the ceiling, stretching across, just keep flowing this time, bend those knees, relax and hang all the way down. Straightening both legs, think about your rights and your lefts. You can't see me, try not to look, just listen to what I'm saying. So I'm going to bend my left knee, keeping my right leg straight, and then I'm going to sweep my right arm out to the side and all the way up to the ceiling. And I'm going to follow it with my eye line. So I'm looking up to the ceiling. And then bring that arm back down, straighten both legs, swap sides. Now I've got my right leg bent, my left leg straight. Sweep the left arm round and up to the ceiling. Hold it there a moment, look up to the ceiling, notice, and then sweep that arm back round. Notice that your shoulders, one more time, straight right leg, sweep the right arm up. Notice, I'll get there in a minute, wait for it, that your hips and your shoulders are tilted at the same angle, hopefully. One more time on the other side, straight leg, Sweep round, lifting up. And come back to the centre and rolling up. Good, we're going to add on one more thing to this. If you haven't done this before with me, have a little look. We're going to take an elbow lead to come back up to upright, also known as the Pooh Bear move. So imagine you've got your helium balloon in your hand. And then we're going to do a little lasso at the end today, which is quite unusual. So, just watch me first if you haven't done this before. We're over to one side, lifting the elbow, taking the straight arm, stretching across, pushing away, rolling back down. That hand was my leading hand. I'm going to straighten that leg. Am I going to straighten the leg? Yes. I'm going to then take my elbow up to the ceiling, that same elbow, and I'm going to reach up to the ceiling. So this is pretty much the same position we just were. Now I'm Winnie the Pooh. I've got my helium balloon in my hand. I unravel when I get to the top. I take a circle around my body and then I roll back down. On the other side, straight away. Left leg straight. Left elbow up. Straight left arm. Winnie the Pooh. Just gradually let yourself unravel. When you get to the top, a little lasso and relax all the way down. Here we go. So, over to one side, doesn't matter which. Lift the elbow, take the arm up to the ceiling. Stretch it across, push away, relax all the way down. That same side arm, straighten that leg, turn your shoulders, lift the elbow, take the arm up to the ceiling, unravel yourself. Lasso around and roll all the way down. Straighten the other leg. Lift the elbow, that same side you're lifting the elbow, take the arm straight up to the ceiling, look up, keep looking up, just relax your neck, relax the shoulders, everything will unravel, continue that movement all the way down and then straight back up again. Good job. Okay, so that was side bends with elbow lift and an elbow roll up. And actually that last move has got the bra straps back in place, so that was perfect. Okay, thinking about legs a little bit more now. So nice and wide with the legs. Turn the legs out in the hip socket. Bend the knees. Knees are going over the toes. Let's just take some plain, simple ballet pliés. So knees are going out symmetrically. Make sure that your spine is nice and equal in the middle. If you can see yourself in a mirror or your monitor or your reflection on your TV maybe. Knees are over your toes. So no knees rolling in, no ankles collapsing, the feet are nice and flat, evenly weighted all the way through. We're aiming with our ballet pliés to get our thighs parallel to the floor, but if that's too much for you, just go as far as you can. If this amount of turnout that I've got, and it's not amazing turnout, but I've got quite strong, good turnout, if that's too much, bring those toes in a little bit. Make sure that your chest stays upright. Work with your body, do what you can. We're going to come down. We're going to lift one heel, place it down. Lift the other heel, place it down. Lift and lower, lift and lower. Let's try two heels together at the same time. This is very strong on the legs. Great. From here, pop those heels down. We're going to turn to one side and drop the knee in. Let's put the knee down. Actually, I didn't do this earlier, but that feels quite nice. Pop the knee down on the floor. Lift the knee up and open the leg out. Turn to the other side. So my hips have turned round, ankle, knee, thigh has turned inwards if you like, but we're parallel now to the new front. Drop the knee down if you can, if that's comfortable, and return. One more each of those. Dropping down and opening out. So very strong work on the legs. I'm going to go again. But I will be very surprised if your legs hurt tomorrow, because the legs are fantastic and you have to work a lot to get your legs to be sore the next day. So good job. Okay, let's move into let's just take that into some stretches. So I'm going to incorporate a warrior pose today. So that same sort of principle of moving the legs around in the hips. So let's start with the legs nice and wide, hinging forwards from the hips. Get your hamstring stretch going. So shoulders are level, collarbone nice and level. You could maybe take your arms out to the side. You could maybe bring your arms and glue them to the side of your torso, and then you're coming up. So I'm pretty much parallel to the floor. That's where I can find my hamstring stretch. I can actually be a little bit higher and just tweak it slightly more, bring my weight onto the balls of my feet. You don't really need to be any lower than this. Maybe with the arms out to the side. So if this is your first class for a little while, Happy New Year, by the way, everyone. I forgot to say that at the beginning. Merry New Year. If this is first class for a little while, take it easy. Find the hamstrings are going to be a little bit tight, probably, unless you've been working all the way through. So arms are out to the side now. Find your biting point, and then bending your knees and straightening your legs, so you're lifting and lowering your torso like a platform. So again, if I go to the side, bending my knees, straightening my legs, bending and straightening. It's not here, not that, and it's definitely not collapsing. Nice and low. Good. So go as low as you can. Again, maybe take those legs out a little bit wider. Let's bend the knees. This time take the hands down so they're underneath your shoulders. Walk your feet out a little bit more. I feel like I'm going to slip, so I'm going to just take the heels out of my socks. So if you've got a yoga mat, turn the toes out to the corners. Hands are underneath your shoulders, and we're moving from side to side. So my hips are staying at the same height. Feet are staying nice and flat. When you go to the side, don't let that little toe edge come up. Moving the ankle. So this is pretty much stretching every single part of the leg at some point. Great job. Let's turn all the way to the side and come into the usual position that we usually take, where we're in line with a yoga mat. The front knee is above the ankle. The hips are facing the new front, which is the short edge of my yoga mat. My back heel is off. My back leg is nice and straight. From here, I'd like you to lift your chest up if you can. Rest a little bit on that leg, but not too much pressure. Put that back heel flat, so that the foot is now in line with the back edge of the mat. That will open out this hip. This is strong work. I'm feeling it already in my legs, especially after those pliés. We're coming up into the warrior pose. From there, lifting, arm up to the ceiling, reaching out, taking a little back bend if you can. Then coming up and over with that back arm, down to the floor, rotate that back leg into your parallel. Lift the other arm up to the ceiling, so you're looking away from the screen, and we are twiddling round to the other side to do all of that on the other side. So feet should already be in the perfect position. Front knee, make sure it's above the ankle. From there, I'm lifting my chest, I'm bracing strongly. Tough work on that front leg. Putting that back heel down, look what happens to this hip, it opens out. The back foot is nice and secure. I'm opening my shoulders up as well to make a nice strong line. Lifting up to the ceiling. I'm not very bendy in the back position, but that's why we're doing this. Bring the arm down, sweep the arm up and over. As you do that, come back down to the floor. Bring that back leg in parallel. Lift the other arm up to the ceiling. Hips are down, back leg is straight if you can. And we are coming back to the centre. Twiddling feet, heels and toes into a parallel position, and then rolling up through the spine. Woo, we're going to come back down to the floor on all fours for the next section. Just going to move monitor. So hands are underneath your shoulders, knees are underneath your hips. So from this position we're starting our strength work, and this is quite strong. Just do what you can. So we're going to curl the toes under to start with. And then you're going to lift your knees off of the floor, and you're going to straighten out your legs behind you so that you come into the plank. That might be all you want to do to start with. So just holding that there if that's enough for you. If you can, drawing one knee in, same side, knee towards your elbow, and then straighten the leg. Swap sides for 4. Draw the knee in and straighten the leg. Draw the knee in and straighten the leg. Your goal is to keep your back as still as possible. Was that 4? I think it was 4. Walk your knees in a little bit again so that underneath your hips, lower your knees. Good job. From there, we're going to lift the knees up again. This time lifting the hips up, pushing your chest back into a nice downward dog. Getting a stretch at the back of the legs, stretching the calf especially for me. Try and hinge at your hips, try and make that the folding point. And if you'd like to, just move the feet, walk the feet through. So we're stretching through the Achilles, through the backs of the legs. And then bring the shoulders over the hands. Let's take the feet out again. Stay up if you can. If you need to come back down onto your knees at any stage, then please do. This time we're going to go opposite, knee to elbow. Swinging across, shoulders stay still. The twist comes from the waist. Alternating, but only for 4. And then we're lifting the hips. And then from our downward dog position, taking one elbow down towards the floor, which will make you look under the other arm, and bend the opposite knee. So it's a very strong stretch at the back of the straight leg. And then come up and swap sides. Bend the elbow towards the floor, shoulders rotate a little bit, back leg is really straight, and swap. 2 more if you can. So I'm looking underneath the arm on the straight leg, the straight arm side, so the one that you're not bending. Try and take the other elbow to the floor, and coming up. Let's walk those, bring the shoulders over your hands, bring the knees in a little bit, drop the knees down. Ooh, have a slight break. Good, last one. As I said, this was a bit tough today. We are curling those toes under, we're taking the legs back into the plank. 4 times if you can, try and bring your foot forward so it's level with your hands. And swap sides. If that's too much, not a problem at all. Just bring the knee into the outside. We're aiming for the foot to be level with your hands, so all 3 are on the same line. If you can get that far, drop the hips down, try and lift your chest a little bit. Just the 4 of those, mind you. Bring your knees in a little bit. Ooh, drop the knees down, hips back on your heels, come onto your elbows, twiddle those hands, have a little roll from side to side. Hoo-wee. Okay. We are coming onto our backs. I'm doing for time. Make sure you're doing some sea anemones with those hands. Keep those wrists nice and strengthened. Yeah, coming onto our backs for our abdominal section and some bridges. So setting your feet up, feet and knees hip width apart. Maybe take the hands underneath the backs of the knees and round the spine to come all the way down to the floor. Settle yourself down a moment. Make sure you're not going to be too slippy in your socks. So starting with a straight bridge. What we were looking at something last couple of weeks where we were unweighting the pelvis. So if the pelvis is relaxed in a really good neutral, it weighs 10 Pilates pounds. If you unweight it by pushing your feet down into the floor, it only weighs 2 Pilates pounds. But essentially nothing really changes. I can feel a slight activation around the gluteal fold when I push down through my feet, but otherwise there's nothing else. There's definitely no change in the pelvis. I've still got my lower back curve in place. Ribs are nice and relaxed. So from there, let's push down into the feet. Now we're lifting the hips up into a beautiful straight line. Try and send the knees away. Try and get the hips up as high as you can, opening out at the front of the hips. keeping the legs nice and narrow, and then we're coming straight back down, but we're resisting. We're staying switched on all the way. No need to relax at the bottom. This isn't particularly strenuous. Lifting up. Keep those buttocks really switched on all the way down. It's like you're fighting coming back down. You don't want to lower those hips to the floor. Push down through the feet. Not too fast up, and definitely not too fast coming down. Really slowly. Make this the last one. All the way up to the top, and resist back down. Great. Let's go all the way up to the top again. Let's take the palms up to the ceiling. Think about your middle finger leading the way. Take the arms up and over to the floor behind you. Just settling out my rug. And then from there, hips as high as you can get them. Then should go up a little bit higher now. Reverse peel down through the upper back first. Collapse that breastplate through every single vertebrae. Release to a good neutral. Think about the spine being in neutral. Now we're turning the palms the other way. It's almost like you're leading with the heels of your palms and your elbows. You're drawing your shoulder blades down in your back. Come into the 100 position with the arms. So they're parallel to the floor, reaching away. We're coming up for an abdominal curl, clearing the shoulder blades, lifting one leg into a knee fold. Stay here. Lift 3 times off of your shoulder blades. Take another 3. Slide the other leg away along the floor. 3, 2, 1. Keep those shoulder blades cleared all the way through. Take that leg straight up to the ceiling. 3, 2, 1. Bend both knees in. Try and get a little bit more height, and then lower. Good job. We're doing that again. Straight bridge up. Switch those buttocks on. Turn the palms up. Reach up and over. Reverse peel down through your spine, unraveling all the way. Turn the palms. Lead with the heels of the palms and the elbows. Just as you get there, clear the shoulder blades, lift the head up, tuck the chin in, draw the other knee into a knee fold. 3 pulses. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Little cinching in at below just the ribs at the front. Slide the other leg away. 1, 2, 3. Last set. Straight leg up to the ceiling. 1, 2, 3. Beautifully pointed feet. Bend both knees. Try and clear those shoulder blades. And relax down. Well done. Great job. That's tough on the neck, but good to keep practicing. Let's take the hands to the back of the head. In the same way that we unweighted the hips just now, we're going to unweight the feet. So keep your elbows, so hands are interlaced at the back of your head. Keep your elbows nice and wide, so it's quite a nice stretch across the front of the chest. Think about your whole pelvis, the whole spine, being in a neutral position, especially your pelvis and your lower back. So think about unweighting the feet. So when they're relaxed, they weigh, let's say they only weigh 8 pounds because they're not quite as heavy as your hips. So they weigh 8 pounds when they're just relaxed, and then unweight them, again, unweight them to a 2. So I'm not lifting them off of the floor, they're still touching the floor. I've just unweighted them and then relax down. Let them be heavy again, let them be 8 Pilates pounds, and then back to the 2 and release. And what you should notice, hopefully, when you unweight your feet, is you're engaging and switching on in your lower abdominals. And so I noticed 2 things. I noticed a sort of a general tightening without any change in shape between my belly button and my pubic bone. It's like everything's sort of gone a little bit, it's gripping a little bit, it's a bracing feeling. And also my ribs connect a little bit more to my hip bones at the front. But that's it. And basically then when we've unweighted the feet, so switch that on. Let's bring the elbows forwards. So they're in your periphery vision. Draw those shoulder blades down in your back. Come up for an abdominal curl. So now I've switched on at the upper end of the abdominal wall, if you like. Feet are unweighted because I've switched everything on, and I'm going to slide the legs out along the floor, and then I'm going to slide them back in again, and then I'm going to lower. So let's take some breathing with this. Breath out as you come up, clear the shoulder blades. Everything is switched on. Slide the legs away. So my feet are in contact with the floor, but I'm not rucking up my mat. I'm not causing my heels to come out of my socks. I've made a right mess of all that now. Because I'm controlling it here, it should not hurt your lower back, lowering down. So sorry, I didn't mess that up, but I was wanting to show you that, but this is how things can go horribly wrong. So make sure that you're not physically lifting your feet off of the floor, because that's not good. It's not good for your lower back. So coming up, breath out, set the abdominals, slide the legs away, breath in, breath out to slide the legs back, see if you can get a tiny bit more height, breath in to lower, let's try one more, breath out, breath in, breath out, breath in. Okay, adding on to this, coming up, sliding the legs away. They're almost as wide as my yoga mat. I'm going to turn my legs out. I'm going to keep my feet pointed and my legs beautifully straight. I'm going to take heel beats, pulses for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, working those inside thighs. Open the legs out, bring them back to parallel, slide them back in. Everything's shaking a little bit for me tonight. Lift those shoulder blades and then lower. Let's go again. Clear the shoulder blades, slide, flex the feet this time. Now turn the legs out in the hip. Heel beats, same thing. Legs are turned out. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And open up parallel, sliding back in and lower. Okay, adding on to this, we're going to take one arm down to the floor at a 45-degree angle. So 90 degrees would be out here in comparison to your body, 45 is here. And the other hand is staying at the back of your head. We're going to take some abdominal curls, focusing on your obliques. You're going to draw the opposite knee in, and you're trying to draw that knee in and take that elbow towards that knee. At the same time, slide the other leg along the floor and then return. Stray head. Let's do 5 of those. So staying on the same side, rolling and twisting in those obliques. Hips stay really strong and still. And again, you've got to hang on in that lower abdominal wall. I think this is 3, 2 more. So that you keep your pelvis stable, you keep your lower back supported. I think that was 5. I'm going to swap sides. Make sure the feet and knees are parallel and hip width apart. Don't go too wide. Don't let those knees drop out. So lifting the knee in, drawing opposite elbow towards the knee and bringing the legs back in. Roll across the shoulder blade. Try not to pull on the neck, try and lift your rib cage up. So I'm lifting this elbow, that elbow up towards the ceiling. I think it's 1 more. Good, back to the first side, adding on. We're going to roll across, same thing, same start. The knee's coming in towards the elbow, the other leg is straightening. Then you're going to straighten that leg down towards the floor with the legs slightly apart, but stay in this lovely twisted position. Now take your 5 heel beats. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Open up the legs, draw the knee back in, try and get a little bit higher, and lower back down. Swap to the other side. We're going to do 3 more sets here. So sliding and drawing the knee in. Think about that twist. Think about how beautifully straight that pelvis is. Slide the leg along the floor. Open the legs out a little bit. Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Draw the knee back in. Then draw the legs back in as you lower. One more time each side. Here we go. Up and over. Think of that upper body staying really lifted. So that the arm that's on the floor, that shoulder blade, almost try and lift off that shoulder blade as well. Should be feeling a really nice activation around the waist. Open up the legs, draw the knee back in, and bend both legs in to finish. Last one, here we go. Opposite elbow to knee, holding that there. Get as much height as you can in that upper body. Take the toe to the floor. Straighten the legs and pulse. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Draw the knee in. Bend both legs back into the base position. And just have a little roll from side to side there. Well done. Hug those knees in. Sitting yourself up. We're going into side lying. I'm going to just straighten up my mat so we're in a nice straight line. So quite a lot of leg work, inside thigh work going on today. So beautiful straight line, hips stacked, shoulders stacked, waist lifted away from the mat as much as possible. If this is uncomfortable on this underneath hip, then just lie on something that's giving you a bit more padding, basically. If it's really uncomfortable, you can just bend the underneath knee and only work the top leg. But it would be better to work both legs if you can. So both legs are up, feet are parallel, legs are parallel, legs are beautifully straight and feet are pointed. From here I'm turning my legs out, keeping the heels together and the toes come apart, and then back to parallel. Turning out and parallel. So where am I turning out from? Inside the hip joint. So the thigh bone, the whole of the thigh bone is turning out. Keep that top shoulder down, rib cage connected. So there's no change in the position of my feet. I'm just keeping them pointed, keeping the legs straight all the way through. Good. Draw the top knee in. So the toe is touching your underneath knee. Keep that underneath leg up and off of the floor if you can. Now again, same thing, turn out from the thigh, but this top leg is going to look very different, feel very different because you've bent the leg. Keep the toe attached to the underneath knee. No curly feet. This is the curly foot. That's 2 curly feet. Ah, beautiful straight line on your insteps. So turning out and parallel. Last one, hold it in the turnout position. That top toe, the toes of your top foot, you're going to tap behind, just immediately behind the other leg, and then lift that leg up. So it's really working inside thigh, pelvic floor. This is strong. And then tap the leg on top again. So behind and lift and tap. Your goal is to try, and it's really difficult, to keep the hips stacked. It gets a little bit necky. Just turn your head to sort of look down at the floor if you're getting necky. Lift and lower, and lift and lower. Woo. So you never know, you might feel some work in the legs tomorrow or the next day. And then back to parallel and straightening out and lower those legs. Well done. Drawing the knees in, coming up sort of into your Z sit, which is going to come up a little bit later, and twiddle your legs round to the other side. So nice straight line. So I'm not really giving you numbers. I try not to give you too many numbers apart from in the abdominals, because I know you won't do hardly any if I don't give you numbers. But for things like this, so lifting the legs up, just work it until it starts to feel like you're doing some work. It should never be painful, but it should be uncomfortable. You should be challenging yourself with the amount of reps that you're doing. And always, when you feel that you would like to stop, do a couple more. As long as the technique is there. If the technique has completely gone out the window, or the alignment's gone out the window, or you know that you're just really wonky but you might be injured, then do stop. But if it's just a little bit of, oh, I'd quite like to stop now, do a couple more. Good, let's draw that top knee in. So this is parallel. So when this knee is lifted forwards, you need your hand on the floor, otherwise the weight of that leg will pull you down. And then turning both legs out and back to parallel. So the underneath leg, that straight leg, is turning out exactly the same as it just did. Insteps nice and straight. No curly feet. Relax the top shoulder, keep the neck long. Think about your waist being lifted. Think about the rib cage being connected. We're trying to isolate the muscles, our turnout muscles, as opposed to letting the whole pelvis rock and roll backwards and forwards. Okay, staying in turnout. We're tapping that foot on the floor behind, and then you're lifting up that inside thigh. It's like the inside seam of your tights, your leggings, if you had one, or your trousers, getting cramp in the foot. Woo. And the leg feels like, rather, it is going up, but it feels like it's probably going to go, cramp again, to the corner a little bit. Oh, my foot thinks it's doing the foot fist from earlier. Good. And enough there. Straighten out the legs and lower the legs. Brilliant. Bend those knees in. Come up into the Z sit. Great. We're going to finish off almost on our tummies. But before we do that, actually, let's do this movement here. So either kneeling, I just want to show you some arm positions. Either kneeling as I am, if you're comfortable with that, or sitting on a cushion, or sitting in a long frog, or kneeling up is another option. But we're going to take the Y, W, T and L. And this is all about building the stamina in the muscles at the back of the neck to try and prevent our forward head carriage, and also that dowager's hump that happens there as well, when we just get too rounded and the fatty tissue starts to develop at the back of the neck. So the first position is the Y. So arms are up, palms are facing forwards, and you're in a quite a wide position. Yeah, so making a capital Y basically, and you're trying to, if I go to the side, you're trying to take your arms further back than your side seam, but without poking your head forwards. Absolutely don't poke the head forwards. So keeping the elbows soft, just opening out there. We're going to hold it for about 10 seconds when we're on the floor. From here, draw your elbows into your sides and keep your arms at the sides. You almost have to push your elbows forwards a little bit. Here's your W. I'm just going to bend my arms a little bit more. That's your W. Holding that there. So drop those elbows down and forwards. Again, I'm really at the side seam of my body. From here, we're opening out to the T, capital T. Stretch arms to the opposite sides of the room. This reminded me of the Mr. Men, Mr. Stretch, I think it was. Was it Mr. Stretch? Yeah, something like that. From here, you're bending your arms again, but this time we're lowering the hands so they're much lower. So you're basically making two capital L's back to back. And if you can, you might be able to, I can't because my tightness in my shoulders. Try and get your elbows into your sides. And again, this is really tough. I can't get my hands any further back. I'm trying to draw my elbows in. And it's all around the shoulders. And then have a little relax. Good. We're going to lie on our tummies and try that. It's even harder when you're on your tummy. You'll be glad to know. So we're just going to hold each position for about 10 seconds, a count of 10. So lying yourself nice and flat, connect your rib cage to your hips, open up the legs so they're hip width apart, nice and parallel. Reach the arms forwards. Draw the shoulders down in your back so the neck is long all the way through. Now we don't want to be doing any of this with a inner back extension because that defeats the object. I actually want you to just start with the tip of your nose touching the floor and then only lift the head up so that it becomes in line with the back of your neck.
So no higher than that. That was me going too higher than the back of the neck. So it's like when your nose is touching the floor, if you had a little gap at the t-shirt and you're just lifting your head up to fill that gap, if that makes sense. So arms are in the Y and holding, you might be asking why, holding it here, holding those arms off of the floor. This is strong. So I'm pushing my pubic bone into the mat. I'm connecting my rib cage at the front. We're holding 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You're bending those elbows in to your sides, drawing your hands out, but bringing hands in a little bit, but keeping your hands off the floor. And if you have a look at your arms, your elbow and forearm should all be on the same level. No flipping at the wrist, keep the wrist nice and flat. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Just watch your height on that one. I'd lift it up quite a bit actually. Drop your head down to keep it in line. Opening out to the side. This should be relatively comfortable. Arms are parallel to the floor and they're about 3 inches above the floor. Now lift them up much more, but from your shoulder, up as high as you can. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Last movement, tuck those elbows into your sides. This time lower your hands. Oh, I find this one really hard. So all around my shoulder blades, the backs of my arms is shaking a little bit. Keep those arms nice and flat. Try and tuck the elbows in to the sides and into your ribs. Hands are at a right angle. Lower arm is at a right angle to the torso. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And collapse. Great job. Come up onto all fours. Have a good old wiggle about. So something I'm doing in my Zoom classes, obviously I won't be able to see you, but I'm just going to leave this with you if you have a bit of time. So your challenge is to get up and down from the floor without using your hands. So you might be here, you might roll over that way and come up to stand that way. You might reverse that movement down into a bit of a curtsy. When you're having a bit of a practice, feel free to have a roll around. So if I went from the Z sit, so I've got my hands on the floor, I could lift up there, I could maybe go there, then come up. The most technical way, that possibly the most difficult, is to be cross-legged. Now again, I find this really hard, but okay, so I'm not too bad getting down. And I've got used to rolling around over my hips, over my shins, over my knees, my ankles, my toes. Coming up is slightly harder. I'm going to give it a go. Taking the weight forwards. Yeah, nope. Taking the weight forwards. Take 2. Yes. Not the most elegant, but it's a work in progress. Thank you so much for joining me live at 5. See you next week. I hope